All right, good day, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. Now, I'm just getting things up and running, so let me know if you can see and hear me just fine. I think we're up and running. We've got two cameras going here at the moment, so this could be a bit of fun. But let me know if you have got me there. I am coming in 4K this time, my first on the YouTube channel 4K live stream. So let me know how it looks, like if it looks any better, looks any worse, you know. Hopefully we're looking okay here, but this is going to be an interesting one. Look, I've got a few ideas about what to chat about, but realistically, I just want to, catch up with everyone. It's been a while since I've live streamed. I've got a little bit of new kit, which I'm going to play with today, but we're just going to have a bit of fun with it all. So let me know where you are coming from as well in the chat. But yes, we are going to have a lot of fun. So I'm here in my office in Sydney, Australia. It is, what time is it? 5 o'clock in the morning. It's, look, to be honest, I got here 5 o'clock yesterday morning and I haven't slept since. I had a stream yesterday morning at, what do you call it? Yeah, I had a stream yesterday morning at 9 a.m. I just got off a stream at about an hour and a half ago, and I was kind of like finishing the one stream, prepping for the next one, and then streaming for this one as well. So literally a 24-hour marathon at the moment. Audio's turned low. I will turn it up for you all. Apologies for that. I'll just boost it to like another 10 dB. How's that looking? I'm seeing the levels there looking okay. So hopefully that is a bit better. Unfortunately, the delay will be an interesting one. I think we've got about 22 seconds or so worth of delay. But hopefully that doesn't change too much in what we're doing here. So welcome. How are you all doing? The border. Yes, that's an interesting one. So I'm using the A2Z, the super source animation. So if I go between, say, this and that. Now that does the border animation, but unfortunately it doesn't seem to go all the way to the edge. I was trying before about putting like a little black border around the edge, but unfortunately that doesn't seem to work, because quite often I'm putting this inside of another border, which I didn't do for this stream. So what I might actually do in the future is the background of the super source is make a black pixel line all the way around the edge. So that could potentially help. But let's see who we've got here. Ben's Tech Lab joining in from Vancouver. Great to see you. We have got Intrinsic Media from Adelaide. That is good on you for being awake this time of morning as well. Eric great to see you again from Rochester, New York. I probably said that wrong. I apologize. And yeah, it's good to see you all. Of course, we've got Tiny Giants Co from 3 cities. That's pretty impressive that you can manage to get all that going. But yeah, look, welcome. Now, Aaron I'll just go with Aaron. Formula looks dope. Since you can't record each channel like the ATEM Mini Extreme ISO, how many feeds do you tend to record via HyperDex, or do you do both ISO, or are you doing both doing ISO records? Now, good question. So I will go into the booth where everything is at the moment and show you, but I'm actually using a bit of both. So I've got the ATEM Mini Extreme, which I'm doing all the switching on, and then I run 8 channels into an Extreme SDI Extreme ISO. So that's how I'm doing my ISO records. I also have 2 HyperDecks in the rack, but we'll get to the rack a little bit later. Yeah, it's going to be a bit of fun. Have I tried the mix effect from Adam Toe? I have, yes. Animation is a lot smoother than A to Z. Yeah, look, it's I have tried it. The thing that I like with the A to Z is that, I mean, I've got the buttons here. You can't break it per se. Like, you can only ever press the right things, and you know that the animations are going to be correct. So yes, the Adam's one is a lot more you can do with it, but I find that having it on this does make life easier because I just know where the buttons are. Yes, I could do a bit of programming, and I really should, but yeah, look. I just had this, well, it was 2 years ago now, or a year ago now, and I just kind of gotten used to where the buttons are. So The sun never sets on the tiny giants. This is correct. We are around the clock. But look, what are we chatting about today? So some of you may have been following in Discord and other things. So when the ATEM Constellation HD was announced at NEB, I went and ordered one pretty much straight away. Now I'm a dealer here in Australia, so if you ever need any equipment, in Australia, give me a yell. But I went and ordered that, and I was going, great, this is what I want. I was looking at the 8K, but I'm like, this is too expensive, I don't need it, blah, blah, blah. And I waited, and I waited, and waited a bit more, and waited, which most of you have as well. And it just didn't come. They just haven't released it yet. So I went, you know what, I've got gigs coming up, I need to get something, and I don't want to hire one, so I ended up buying the 8K, which was a lot more expensive than I was hoping for. But to be honest, I'm not mad about it. I'm mad about how much it costs, but it's, you know, it's quite nice. It is a big improvement. Like the fact that I'm now streaming in 4K, I've got two S-Mini Pros here as my cameras, which is a bit of fun. So they're going 4K all the way through, got a Pearl Nano, which is encoding the output through RTMP, and it's looking really nice. So yes, I bit the bullet and went for the 4K. So now, when I'm talking about because what I want to talk about today is like the Madi output, because I know that's something that's a lot of people are very much interested in, because they're going, well, I don't need the 8K, but the HD is great and gives me a lot of options, so maybe I'll grab that and then match it up with the console so that we can get that out. So, and that was another thing for me. It's like, I don't necessarily need 8 MEs, but, sorry, not 8 MEs, 4 MEs, but I actually do use that quite often as well. I mean, this last job, I used 3 at least. And on before that, I think I used 4. So, yeah, look, it was a bit of an overkill, but now that, well, it's one of those things. Now that you have it, you use it. So, yeah, it's a lot of fun. So good to hear the levels are good. Hello from Trinidad on live locations and Sebastian Films. Looks and sounds wonderful. Amazing. Aaron, so there's a great companion profile for Mix Effects so we can use my Stream Deck too, but yes, agreed, muscle memory is a real factor. Yeah, look, there is. I do need to play with it and spend some more time. I have used Mix Effects on a few things, like I had a LED screen with a couple of panels, so I had some different panelists there, so I'd press a button and the panels would move to the big screen and then come back again, and I've had a lot of fun with it. It's been really nice. Eric, how many days since NAB today, 27th of April to November 4th? You're welcome to do the math on that, but I would say more than 7. It's been a while. But the rumors are true. It has started shipping. I have seen photos in the wild, and on my dealer portal as a distributor, it's been saying like coming May, June, July, August, September, October, and now it's actually saying that it is shipping. So it is out. So if you have ordered one or you're thinking of ordering one, it's probably now time to do so, and hopefully be getting yours soon, which is exciting. So I'm really keen to see more of these appearing in the wild because you know, they're pretty cool. Hello from Transylvania, Romania. Amazing. So good to have you with us. I must say, it's been a lot of fun doing YouTube and having people from all over. Yeah, it's been so much fun getting to know you. But what I will probably do, I really should have tested this before I went live. This is going to be a lot of fun. Filmic Pro. Hopefully we can get this up on the old Apple TV, and I'm going to wander over to the control room. So I'll get a little bit of a tour of the office here. Screen mirroring, Apple TV, hopefully that's the right one. Then I also got to find where that button is in the multitude of buttons. There we go. All right, we got a picture. But let's go for a walk, because I want to show you the control room I've got set up here in the office, because we've got a, yeah, there's a lot going on here. So once I find, what ME am I? This is where it gets confusing. You've got so many MEs. Apple TV, and boom, there we are. Actually, another fun toy I've got at the moment as well is this is the Xebo AX4, I believe it is. So this is actually a motorized slider. So you can see it's moving away nice and quietly there. And it's able to hold inertia, which is really cool. So that's how I'm getting the tracking shots on that. But yeah, I'm here in the studio at the moment. It is an absolute mess, I apologize. So just kind of set up some road cases here for things. Again, this is all very much temporary. A couple of lights and stuff on the ground for a bit of color. But let's head out to the rest of the office. So here is our office space where we do all of our work. Editors kind of hang around here, do their things, or editors, animators, designers, all of the team. We'll head down here. It is still pitch black. I can find the door. And here we are in the control room. So this is where we've got the rack at the moment. So that's where all the magic's happening for this stream. So we've kind of set this office up to be, yeah, I memean, this is a generic office, but we have set this up so that we can do streams at any point. So we've got a couple of screens set up here. We've got a 55-inch 4K sitting there, as well as a couple of TV Logics along here. We have a MacBook Pro, which is getting all of the info on the, it's got a Thunderbolt going to the rack, and there's a bunch of stuff in there which is making that all happen. Now the stars of the show, really, the Constellation 8K sitting down there. We've also got two HyperDeck HD Studio Pluses, and thank you for turning on the lights. We've also got an Ultra Studio 4K Mini, and there's a little StarTech Thunderbolt dock. Now you probably recognize, if you saw my video on the on my last live stream shooting the box, there's a few things I brought over from that. But and there's also a lot of fans. As when I first put this together, I found out very quickly, this stuff gets really hot. Now I'm going to do a video on like the build of this and how I've gone about doing things. Like there's actually 3 shelves in here. So we've got a bunch of converters, Apple TVs, Raspberry Pis, routers, a whole bunch of power supplies down there. Then we've got a network switch in the middle level. On the top layer, we've got a bunch of 20 volts adapters so that we can run cameras off this rack. And we've got the Pearl Nano, which is doing the encoding of the stream right now. But if we go around the back, this is where all the mess happens. So I've got most of the feeds going to patch panels on the back here. Everything's labeled and nice. We've got a bunch of HDMI, so there's a couple of adapters in there as well. More exhausts, PoE plus switches, more exhaust. Yeah, so that's basically the rack. But again, I will do a video showing it more in depth, because obviously this is not quite as easy to see. Now let me try and bring the chat up over here. So I want to see what you are all saying. Sorry, I'll go bring this up here for now. So your office beats my office. Look, it's a pretty amazing office, not gonna lie. Testing a setup before a show does take away the fun and the tingle. Look, I didn't test much, let's be honest. I kind of just did what I had to do. Titan AV cases, I see a man of taste. I lost count out to 15 of those. Yep, they're not bad. Much fanage. Need fans totally. Yeah, look, it is a very heat hungry thing. But now, one thing I wanted to talk about is the Madi output. So I've got an X32 rack here, which is doing all the mixing of the show here. And that is being patched into the ATEM via Madi. I do also have, I don't know if we're going to be able to see anything back there. There's a bit of analog happening as well, but I'm going to go through the patch sheet and show how that's all happening. But basically, this is the control room. So obviously everything's in flight cases, so we can take it wherever we want. But we have been doing a lot of streams out of here, which is been really good. But I'll head back to the studio so I can actually see what you're all talking about and show some examples of how we are doing things. So let me bring back the old super source. There we go, we are back. Yeah, so let me bring up the chat as well. So I want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Rob Fisher, g'day, how are you doing? Good to see you, thank you for joining. Yeah, okay, so how have I gone about doing this audio? So I'm going to talk specifically about my setup. In the OB trailer that I did, we also had the AK Constellation there. We used Madi out going to the DM0 D-Live console. But the cheapest way that I've found, it seems, is the X32 rack with the Madi card is the cheapest way of getting Madi in and out of the Constellation. Now, unfortunately, that card only has a single input. Now, because on the Constellation forumies, you've got 2 B and C outputs, so Madi out 1 and 2. Now, the way that in 4K and HD and mode on the Constellation AK is they divvy up their channels. So you have inputs 1 to 30, and you can get channels 1 to 4 of those 30 inputs. Try and stick with me here. So on the first cable, you get inputs 1 to 30 and channels 1 and 2 on those 1 to 30. So channel 1 and 2 is channel 1, left, right. Channel 3 and 4 is channel 2, input 2, left, right. And then you move your way up. Wow, my voice is going. I really should go to sleep. So we are only able to get the first 2 channels out of the Constellation, but what it gives me is fully digital audio all the way through, which is really like that was the thing that was killing me about the ATEM Mini. Sorry, give me 1 second. It has been a bit too long since I've done a full dayer. So yes, so basically we have 30 channels worth of inputs available on the Madi line. Now the X32 is a 32 channel console. So the X32 card in the back of it only can support 32 channels as well. So but you are able to choose which section of 32 channels you can choose. Now, when I did my setup on the Constellation, because in the rack, I've got a whole bunch of things that are permanent in there, and there's obviously a bunch of stuff that we plugged in as well. So I actually adjusted my input patch differently because of that. So let me go into my one of my spreadsheets for yeah, let's bring this up. Let's see if this works. All right, so hopefully you can see that all right. I'll make it nice and big so that everyone can see. So basically this is just a very basic patch. You've got the Constellation. So the inputs here are 1 to 40, and I've got my outputs there. So I'll show you what I've done in terms of my permanent patching. So in inputs 1 to 21, they have physical patches on the back. So you can plug whatever you want STI into there. And from 22 onwards, that's where some of the permanent things happen. So HDMI 1, there is a HDMI to SDI in there. There's like 10 converters in there. Now I did a video on how I did the power supplies for that. You can check that out in the link somewhere in the channel. The second one, 23, is laptop. So I call laptop, basically it's the Thunderbolt line out of the Thunderbolt dock. So the Thunderbolt dock will have a HDMI out, which goes into a HDMI to SDI, as well as got a bunch of USBs plugged into like a cam link, for example. It's also got Ethernet in there, and it's also plugged into the Ultra Studio 4K Mini as well. So with one cable, they'll even give you a bit of power to run your MacBook Air. So I can just literally plug that in. I get network, I get graphics. So my graphics at the moment is coming up on that Ultra Studio through the one Thunderbolt cable, which is really, really cool. Apple TV, which is how we did the walkthrough before. I got a Playout B with on a Raspberry Pi for some video playbacks, and I got 2 HyperDecks. So I've got HyperDeck 1A and 2A, and I've got 1B and 2B there. So there's a reason why I've split them, because normally you kind of have them next to each other. But as you can see here, there's some gray areas. Now what I've done here is from 13, I've got on the side here the channels that are being used for those. So I've got channels 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6, so that I can go into the console and in the way that I've set it up and figure out those patches and which one's plugged into what. So what I've kind of done is here upwards from 13 to 21 are external inputs that I can get going in. And from 22 to 28, which is the last one, these are the permanent ones in the rack, which will get audio. Now, for the HyperDecks, I only need audio from one of those lines. If I'm doing a key and fill, I don't need the fill to have audio as well. So 29, 30, and Ultra Studio B. So all the B lines are all outside of XLR. Sorry, XLR. I'm not talking about XLR, I'm talking about Madi. Madi's more fun. So that is what I'm doing there, which is a bit of fun there. See how we're talking. Jonas, good to see you, my friend. How did the stream go? It went well. Jonas gave me a little hand with the funky animation of this. I might show you how we did that a bit later. What am I using to stream today? So using the Constellation 8K, and I'm using the Pearl Nano using RTMP H.264. I did a little trial with the HLS, but the delay was a bit longer, and to be honest, the H.264 seemed fine. So that is what I'm using at the moment. Let's go back to our patch sheets. So that is all our inputs. Now, I don't have a patch panel with the last 8 inputs here. If I really wanted to, I can just pull the panel off and get to those last things, but I've only had to do that once so far. Yeah, it's so easy to fill up channels. Now the outputs. Now all the outputs 1 to 18, they are SDI outputs in the back. And then I've got 19 and 20 going straight to the HyperDecks for records. I got monitor left and right. Now I've got, that's 2 SDI to HDMIs in the rack, which are currently not being used, but I might use them later on. Then I've got 2 cam links, which go SDI to HDMI. Now these are all 12G adapters, so that they will do down converting as well as up to 12G as well. So I've got 2 cam links. Now these cam links are actually going to 2 HDMI embedders. Now, unfortunately, this is where the analog comes in. So I'm often having to do mix minuses on live streams because I've got guests coming in, so I have to do a bunch of mix minus stuff. Now, unfortunately, the Constellation and all the ATEMs only have 1 mix out. It does have the option to do a mix minus, but really it's kind of useless. I do want to try and play with it a bit and see if we can get something useful out of it because, okay. One thing that really peeves me about the Madi out on the Constellation is that you cannot get the media player audio out unless you're in 8K mode, which no one is. And because a use case that I have so often is that I've got a Sting built into the Constellation, and I want to send that audio to an audio console so that old mate on the audio console can go and mix that. But it just doesn't work. I've got like I got the headphone out, or I've got the TRS in there going out the Madi, but I'm like, give me a media player or give me the ability to patch it. So I'm sure there's people out there sharing frustration in terms of, yes, we just want the ability to adjust our patching, but also adjust that patching and have multiple mixes and auxes. And what would be even more amazing would be actually being able to embed audio on other channels. Because right now you can get channels 1 and 2, which is your program mix, and then you got nothing up until channel 13, which is the engineering, 13, 14, which is the engineering comms, and 15, 16, which is the production comms. So they can embed it, it's just all these channels are just being lost. And so, yeah. Blackmagic, if you're watching, please give us more options. Please. Now, we'll go back to our patching here. And so this is where the audio comes in. Now, I have to try and remember what I've done here. So yeah, so on the back of the console, I've got XLR out for the speakers in the room, and I've got 2 sets of stereo XLR, which goes from the top rack to the bottom rack and goes into those audio embedders. So I have 2 stereo lines going into those audio embedders. So basically it gives me 3 mixes ready at any one time. So you got 1 mix going to the ATEM, I got 1 mix going to one of the cam links, which is permanently patched into the Thunderbolt. I got another one going to a HDMI out, which I can then plug into a cam link on the desk. So yeah, quite often I've got 2 mix minuses. Sometimes I need 3, so I might need to add another one to the system, but that is basically that. So that is my patch sheet, which I kind of run by for most jobs. Now, if we have a look at the console, this is where the fun happens. Let's see if I can make this a little bigger for you. There we go. Now we have, yes, this is the console. This is how I've laid it out. Now, I do change this every so often, and the audio patching will get a bit complicated just because of how I've done things, but I'll explain why I've done things the way that I've done them. Now, what I am trying to achieve with these things is, I did a video on a mixed minus and how I've done mute groups and things like that, so that I can have people talking to people without going to the world, and they can have internal chats, but also the delays and on the outboard rather than the inboard, and a whole bunch of that kind of stuff. So that's, if you're interested, that's quite a good video to watch, because that'll explain how I've done that. But what I have basically set up here, so if we go to the routing tab, so my inputs are all set to user in, so it just means that I can have full control over that. Now if I go to, I'll make this full screen so you can see a little better. Although it is in 4K, so you should be able to see really nicely actually. And even this laptop's 4K coming out too. So basically, I've got my card. So these card inputs are all going in basically all the way through, except for a couple here, which is the audio, the analog, which I was using on the shoot today. But I will show you how the card is working too. That's not where the, this is for the card output. Now, I believe it was in setup, potentially. Card, here we go. So this is where you can choose which 32 channels that you can use in your Madi output. So I chose to go from channel 18 onwards. You can start from channel 1. The reason I didn't do that is because when I'm plugging in a camera and I'm using CCU, I want to be able to have my camera 1 line up with camera 1 in the switcher. Now you can kind of repatch things. So if you start at 18, for example, and then try and patch it to 1, but then your CCU doesn't do that as well, so things get really complicated. So it's just easier to just go, camera 1 starts at camera 1, and then you work your way through. So that's why I've done my audio down the bottom, because it doesn't matter where it is. It was just more that it matters more that the audio is in the right spot. So, sorry, it was 25 to 56 is what I've chosen there. So you can choose in chunks of 8 channels. So like 1 to 32, 9 to 40, etc. So you can see that there. Madi output, you can do the same thing, but all I really need the Madi output for is to send back from the Constellation, sorry, from the X32 to the Constellation in full digital glory. Now there's also a 56 mode and a 64 channel mode, so we're doing 64 channel because that's what the Madi mode is for this. Obviously using the coax on the back there rather than fiber. But yeah, so that's how I've set up the card here. Just jump back, see how everyone's doing. Rob, let's have a look. Really crazy that you've been on your feet for so long and to do another stream with us. Thank you for that. Stream looks really good. What bitrate are you looking at? Appreciate it, thank you. I will be honest, I will absolutely crash and burn when I get home. I can feel my body shutting down. Yep, I'm fine, it's great. So I'm recording at, let me check before it's either 30 megabit or 35 megabit. Let me check. Just trying to see, can I show you things without encoding? Yeah, I think we could show you all this. So this is the Pearl Nano setup. Made that a bit better. So I've got H.264 high running 4K, Paid the way too much money for the upgrade there. And yeah, 3500 kilobit for my bit rate there. So yeah, H.264 high, so that's how I'm getting the video out of that. But I did some testing, it actually looks really nice. So I'm hoping that you're seeing the same thing as well. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it is annoying that we lose the latency is a huge thing. Like having like 20 to 30 seconds of latency is quite annoying, especially when you're trying to interact with chat and that kind of thing. But the quality is just too nice, you know. I mean, you let me know. What do you guys prefer? Do you prefer to have what's a high quality to you? Do you want to go quality or latency? Like, what's your priority? Because I'd be very interested to see what your preferences are. Now let's go back to our X32 here. And actually, I can probably stay in this shot. That looks a bit better. Cool. So what I've done here, now you've noticed that there's a lot of channels which are kind of split up. Now the reason for that is the auto mixer. Now the X32 has an auto mixer, and it's only in the first 8 channels. Thank you, Behringer. Why wouldn't you let me pick any 8? But anyway. That's another story. Auto mixers are amazing. If you can use them, use them. But the problem I have is that if I've got a stereo auto mixer, so if I link these 2 channels together and I use the stereo, the auto mixer kind of goes, well, you got 2 things making the same noise, I'm just going to get rid of both of them. So basically the stereo channel fights with itself, which is really, really annoying. So basically what I've done is gone, well, all my guests are coming in mono, they've just got 1 microphone, so there's no point in them being stereo. So I've gotten rid of the second channel, just gone and muted them, and then I'll just turn on the auto mixer on the left channel. Doesn't really matter which one it is, but I just picked the left for everything. Now if I went down to the right here, you can see that I've got a bunch of playbacks which are also stereo, but I don't need the auto mixer for that. So keeping that as much as I can. So this is where things get fun. Try and hold on there. But I'm hoping that the nice 4K quality means you can actually see what's going on, which is a bit of fun. Okay, so I have to try and remember what I've done here. So in my aux output, so there's how many auxes? Let's have a look at the buses. Now there's 16 bus outs and 6 matrices. So what I've done is, so let's start with the host, for example. So Phil, which is a client I work with a bunch, absolute legend. He's coming in on channel 1, so I've got a streaming bridge coming in, and that's his audio feed coming into channel 1, which is also happens to be input 12 and 13 on the SDI coming in. Oh no, sorry, it's input 13. So that's how I've labeled the second channel so I know which input it is. So input 13 in the Constellation is Phil's mic. Now, where that mic is going to a few different places. So my left-right bus is actually off. There's nothing going to the left-right. Everything goes through an aux or a matrix or both. So you can see the left-right's down there at the moment. So my Phil mic, okay, let's just use the microphone I'm on at the moment. So I've got that going to the control room. So I have a direct line from the channel to the control room so I can hear them discreetly. I also have a host W, so I call it the host world bus. So that's an aux, so that's going to there. That's post fader. Actually, it should be post fader for everything. But I only pulled this channel in today because I had a client coming in on set. Now, yeah, so you got the host channel there on going to there. Now, I also added an IFB line. So this morning I had 2 sets going on. I had this set and I had one out there. So I had 2 hosts talking at separate times with separate IFB lines so that they can hear each other, but also not hear themselves and things like that. So Danny was one of the hosts. They were talking to Rich, so Rich could hear them there. But basically, yeah, so from the channel, it goes straight to an aux, and the aux is where things go. Now, the other benefit of this is that I haven't touched any delays yet. So ordinarily, I would have in-ears in while I'm watching the stream, just so I can hear myself and hear what's happening. I didn't get time to plug them in, so I don't have them this time. But what that gives me is the ability to be able to monitor myself and anyone else coming in without any delays. Because anyone who's plugged their headphone into an ATEM Mini will realize that it sucks because you're listening to yourself what seems like a year later, and that is not fun. But if you listen to yourself pre-delays, absolutely fine. It's exceptionally normal to do that, and you can listen to that all day, no problem whatsoever. So I will often listen to myself pre-delays, and my control feed will actually be what I'm listening to in my ears. Now, it's not necessarily what's going out, I just have to keep in mind about what's going out. So yeah, once we're in that, we can now look at the buses. So I've gone from the channels here to the buses, and this is where things go. So my host, for example, so now an aux in the X32 can go from an aux to a matrixy to a matrix, or to left-right from there. So basically it goes channel, aux, matrix, mains. And you can only go one direction. So you can't send like a matrix to an input or a matrix to an aux. You can only go down because the processing's happening in that order. So I have these three stereo matrices happening here. So I've got ATEM left, right. I've got Camlink 1 left and Camlink 2 left as well, and left, right. So those are my two Camlinks which I'm using for the mix minus, as well as my program going out. So what I've set up here, and this changes depending on how I've got my computer set up for the call, because I'll have calls where I have just literally someone on set going out to a Zoom call, and that Zoom call is, or YouTube is not responding to me, so I'll just send it straight through the ATEM, straight through all the way through, all easy that way. If I have, say, I've got a host talking to a Zoom call and listening to the Zoom call, I will do a mix minus there and send them out to one of the cam links, but the cam link is not sending them back out. So we're getting a mix minus of themselves so that they don't get the audio feedback. But quite often what I'm having at the moment is all three. So I will have a record, which is recording everyone. I will have the punters, everyone at home listening on the main Zoom or Teams or whatever call, and that will have the host going into it, but not themselves. And I also have a host coming in remotely, and they need a mix minus so that they can hear the people at home, but not themselves. So that's where I get those multiple mix minuses going on there. So, yes, now, this is where I start talking about mutes and things like that. Now, my host world is only going to wherever I sent this. So typically, if I had, say, turn this down, say that was my main Zoom call, I would have that, say that was my host's return feed, I would have that down, and say the record, and this one is the main Zoom call, I would call that the world. That's going out of the studio, that's going dangerous places, so I want to make sure that the only time that this audio is going out, I have control over that. So now, if I was to mute this bus, that would mean that the audio is no longer going to the world. So if I talk and talk and talk, and you couldn't hear me then. So I have a button here called under the world section of host. If I make it green, it means it's safe. I know it's not going to the world. I am totally safe there. And then I also have an internal line so that I can have people talking internally, but I can also mute them as well. So I have my host world, I have my guest world, I have guest 2 world, and Zoom world. So again, I change these things depending on the gig because the patch does change. Now, then I go into host internal. Now that host internal is only going to the internal Zoom call, which is bringing in the remote guests, for example. And these guests are talking to the other host, for example. So I have to go through all these and program them to make sure that I'm getting the right things right, but it means that I can go, all right, I can unmute this one, which allows audio to go through to the internal or external or both, or none. So I'm hoping that's making sense. Now things like playback just goes everywhere, but you can see here I've got the level a lot lower for the remote host because you want to be able to talk to them. You don't want to have music blaring while they're sitting there waiting in the green room. And then I also have my chat mic. So in there I've got a microphone with a switch, and I have the ability to mute and unmute different outputs. So I have like 3 stream deck bucket buttons. So I have one going to world, so I can go, yep, I'm talking to the world, one going to the host, and then one going to the other mix minus. Again, it's not a permanent solution because each job is different. So it does require some changes, but it gives me full flexibility to be able to do all these things. Because, yeah, not every call's the same. So that's basically what I've done. I've gone from the channel, through an aux, out of the matrix, out to the world. Now, this is where I add the delays. Where did I add the delays? Now, one amazing thing about the Madi output is we have all of the audio in sync coming in on those digital channels. So long as the source is in sync. And what I mean in sync, they're all relative to each other. So all of those Madi channels, so long as the source content is in sync, I only have to figure out one delay and all of those Madi channels are now going to be perfectly in sync. Amazing. And it's not like you've got, say, Dante virtual sound card on one or analog on one, or you've got a USB interface, for example, all which could have different delays going through your signal path. And also some may have more processing, like in terms of SDI to HDMI adapters, or some might be going over RF link or whatever. Excuse me. So the beauty about all this is that I can get, regardless of how it gets to the switcher, if the source is in line, you can go for a really slow video transmitter, it'll still hit the switcher at the same point, and it'll go to the switcher at the audio console at the same point. You only have one delay to work with. It's awesome. It's so much. This is one of the main reasons I love this. You don't have to worry about delays. You don't have to go through every channel and figure out what delay you're using. It just works. Now, how did I do that delay? I think what I ended up doing, which only works because all the inputs I had were coming in via Madi. So a lot of the jobs I do, I have a host coming in remotely, and then they're mixing with people online and going out again. So what I was doing is actually doing the delay on the output. So let's bring that back up. So now in the output routing, this is also where things get a bit funny as well. Now I'm trying to remember this because I set this up a while ago. So basically my output's 1 to 16. I can assign those outputs to be whatever I want. So output 1 and 2 is control room 2, 1 in control room. So these are all the analog lines. So they've got their matrix buses and things like that. And the IFB lines. Now I've set these 9 and 10 to be the ATEM, which is going out the Madi back into the ATEM. So that's coming in 9 and 10. Now under these outputs, we can assign delays to, all the outputs can have delays on the outs. So the console is all in sync all the way through, apart from going to the out, which is really cool. So for example, don't know why those are off at the moment, but I've got, so to the ATEM, these last 2 channels have no delay. So either I made a mistake or that's correct, which is cool. So there's actually no delay between the Madi coming in and going back out again. But I needed 200 milliseconds of delay for this one and 100 milliseconds of this one. Basically, I just recorded a test pattern all the way through and just adjusted my things for that. That's how I'm doing the delay there. Now, obviously I'm on set now with a microphone, and I needed to add a delay to get this mic in sync with the camera, which is obviously always slower. Now I'm trying to remember what I did. So now, okay, here we go. So I have a stereo pitch shifter which I'm using for a audio delay. So what I've done is on the host's world line, which is what we're hearing me on now, if you look at the meters here, you can see that there's a delay happening through this pitch shifter. Now, obviously there is no pitch shot going on. If I do this, my voice is going to get very high. So yeah, you want to make sure that is set to 0, but this is where I'm actually adding my delays to the audio to get that back in sync. Now again, I'm doing this in the aux because on my local listen, I don't want to have any delays. And that is how I'm doing that. Low cut all the way down, high cut all the way high, so you're not actually chopping any audio. And then I'm setting this as an insert bus on FX3, and I've got that turned on with the pink. So now that you can see the audio coming into the host is in sync, and then you can see over here, it goes up and then you can see it. That's where the delay is going on the output. So that is how that is happening. Hopefully that's all making sense so far. I know I've kind of skimmed through a lot of this, but it is a little bit of a mind trip in terms of how this all works. But having mute groups on the aux side makes life a lot easier. And also the fact that all of these are post-fade means that on the main layer, so I gave myself 10 dB because my mic was too low, that means that everything downstream is also getting that 10 dB boost as well. The other thing too is that I have automation for like my video playbacks, and that will bring up, like fade in and out the hyperdeck, for example. And that's all automated. So that means that because it's post-fade, when I bring it up, it'll automatically do that. And then when I bring it back down again, it'll come back down. And everyone down the line will also hear those fades, which is really nice. Let's see who else is chatting. So Aaron, so are you sending from ATEM to X32 and back to the ATEM as a stereo master? Yes. So, which is awesome because it means that if I've got a digital signal coming in via SDI, there is no analog whatsoever for those signals. It goes digital to the console, digital all the way back. No analog touched. Amazing. 4K is excellent for demoing software, honestly. Love seeing the 4K for that reason alone. Latency is a huge deal. Yeah, look, it's, I mean, in this example, it's actually working quite well. Yes, it really depends on that. So when you have set up a set studio like this, go for quality, home studio, go latency. Yeah, that's fair. Good vibes, love the background. Thanks. The branding we had for the first client actually works quite well, having the colors there. David, good to see you, my friend, my fellow Aussie, and hi from Holland. Welcome, welcome. But yeah, look, if you've got any questions about what I've chatted about there, let me know. Hopefully that's all made sense. Gosh, it's already been 50 minutes. It's amazing. Time flies when you're having fun. But it feels good to be streaming with you all again. I have quite honestly missed it, but it has been a lot of fun. So yeah, if you've got any questions, let me know, because I'm here to help out as much as I can. I'm just having a look at the video feed. That actually looks pretty nice. That's just HD. Let's go 4K. Yeah, look, that's a good picture. I'm not gonna lie. But yes, I have got a delay to work with, so I will wait to see if anyone brings anything in. But in terms of content, look, I've been trying to get content out. I have a 2-month-old now, which is keeping me a little bit busy alongside work as well. When am I visiting the US next? I don't know, you tell me. Hopefully won't have anything stolen next time, but anyway. Yes, I would like to go to the US and hopefully see a few of you as well. That'd be fun. Yeah, so we've got, looks like Madi insert has a 500 millisecond delay max. I'm guessing you're talking about on the on the pitch shifter here. Yes, so you got 500 milliseconds available there. If you really need more, you'd be able to add another, let's try one of these, 500 milliseconds over here as well. So you have, if you really wanted to, you can go up to 1,000 milliseconds, but if you're that out of sync, then you got some fun going on. But it seems to be around 100 milliseconds for the most part for most things, and 200 milliseconds. I don't know why they're different, because the signal paths are pretty much the same. But for some reason, they're coming through slightly differently. So yeah, it's a bit of an interesting one. I have for me in back order, and we use the UI24R and Madi converter, our investment, so to say. UI24R, I'm not familiar with that. UI24R. Does that have Madi? If that's so, that is very interesting. I did not realize that there was another one in that small range. That'd be very cool if it does. Yeah, please let me know if that does. I'm just having a quick look. Yeah, it looks like it has a card slot, so potentially they could do Madi out. That's actually really cool. Thank you, by the way, for the tip on the KVM adder on the video the other day. No worries. It's a really cool KVM system, and it just works. But one thing about it is get it on a separate VLAN. It just does weird stuff with the network. I can't remember if I said this in a video or not, but yeah, sorry. So when I first set it up, I had the Greengo and all the ATEM stuff and the adder on the one VLAN, and the Greengo and the adder were just fighting it out. They were not loving life. So as soon as we changed it to a separate VLAN, all was fine with the world. Now, it was annoying because I was hoping to have the adder be able to talk to Companion, so that on the Companion buttons you can actually select which output is going out there. So unfortunately that didn't happen, but it was, I mean, look, it was fine. And we can do routing between it anyway, so it was not the end of the world. Yeah, but yeah, let me know if you've got any other questions about the setup, any things you want to see content-wise as well, because I'd love to hear from you. I'm planning on doing I did have a trailer job booked in. Actually, I had two trailer jobs booked in, but unfortunately they both got cancelled, which is really annoying. Okay, sorry. I haven't confirmed that the RU24R has Madi. It doesn't have it built in, but it did seem to have a card slot. So don't quote me on that. I was just looking at pictures on Google. So so I'd have to buy a converter to use the Madi. Yeah, look, I don't know how many converters there are. I mean, I know there are a bunch because, you know, Madi's a pretty generic format there, but yes. Yeah, not gonna lie, the delay is definitely real, just analog. Yes, it is. But look, it's been a lot of fun to join with you all. So yeah, content-wise, I am in the process of, well, so I want to do a video on the constellations. I'm going to bring it back to the studio and show the final reveal, basically. So I want to do a nice reveal thing on the on this kit. But yeah, I just want to do this stream so that I could show you how I've got the thing set up and how it's working, and obviously answer your questions and stuff as well. The stream looks so good using RTMP or HLS. I'm using RTMP. I thought that HLS would have made a big difference, but it's H.264. Pretty impressive. You give it enough data rate, it'll look beautiful. Any tips on a brand and model for Madi to analog or a Dante box? I believe Yamaha has a Madi to Dante converter. Madi to analog, I don't know, to be honest. I don't know any numbers off the models off the top of my head. I haven't done a lot of work with Madi. I've done a bit over the time. It's mostly been Dante I've used for the most part. But yeah, look, it's just been a lifesaver having this Madi going straight into the console and being able to just go, cool, that's channel 13, there it is, done, route it wherever I want. And it keeps it all digital, so there's no analog noise to be heard of. Now, obviously this is analog, so this is going to make a bit of noise here and there, but it's not the end of the world. Look, I'm going to be honest, it's been an hour. I need to go to bed. I have been up for 26 hours working, but I have had a lot of fun hanging with you all. So thank you all so much for joining. I really appreciate it as always. And I will hopefully see you all on the next one. Cheers.